Sure. He just
Yeah. It's going out for 60. So like if I wear an Apple Watch.
We're gonna get 39 to go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, at this time, I'd like to call to order the meeting for Competitive Edge Charter Academy. I'd like to acknowledge that we have a quorum with all 4 of our current board members present. And can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to actually begin with do we have any adjustments to the agenda at this time?
We do not this evening, but we do have one public comment.
Okay. So can we get an approval for the agenda? Can I get a motion and a second?
I'll second it.
Approval for the agenda moved first by board member Miller and a second by board member Bannister. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And the board votes aye. Motion passes with a 4-0 vote. And do we have anything for public comment? Yes. I'd like to welcome to the. What is it? Is it Miss Mary Martinez. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Mary Martinez, and I'm a second grade teacher at CECA. I've been a teacher in YCJUSD for 27 years, during which time my 2 daughters also attended our schools from kindergarten through high school, graduated with honors and went on to college and to be successful, wonderful people. But during that time, teaching and learning have evolved a lot during those 27 years. While some evolution is welcome, I'm not quite ready to use ChatGPT to write my notes for tonight's meeting. However, inquiry-based learning, international baccalaureate studies, new lines and Chromebooks have made it easier for our students to be prepared for high school, college, and beyond. To make all of this happen, collaboration between all invested parties has been a key component to helping CECA students be successful. And so I'd like to thank Ms. Spinks, all the members of the school board, both past and present, and indeed the entire CECA community for helping us to be innovators in the world of education. Next year, CECA will be in the International Baccalaureate recertification process, which we have already begun preparing for. Our staff has already begun a lot of work to plan for this, and through collaborative efforts of parents, students, staff, administration, and the board, we will continue to strive for excellence in our IB studies. So having said all that, I decided to jump in 2025 and decided to use ChatGPT's suggestion to end my speech, so here goes. Thank you and have a nice evening.
That takes us to our advisory committee.
Good evening. At this month's Parent Community Advisory Committee meeting, we completed our update to the mission statement. CECA staff, students, families, and community members have all had a part in updating our mission statement to capture our values, as well as to incorporate our learning and experiences over the last 5 years. Next, we heard from Mr. Bata, CECA's band teacher, as he laid out a proposal for expanding the band program at CECA and revitalizing the 5th and 6th grade music program. Mr. Bata and Mrs. Collins have done an amazing job making a band possibility at CECA, and it was exciting to hear about some potential additions that will provide even more opportunities for our students. Next, we reviewed the open enrollment process and checked in on where the school was in that process. Finally, We reviewed the book purchase list and library inventory list and opened the floor for any questions or concerns. Thank you.
Mr. Mead, is there anything you'd like to add to that? All right, thank you so much. That's great. Is moving on to the consent calendar, are there any items on that listed there need to be pulled into consideration?
I'm just gonna let you know that I'm staying from the minutes.
Okay.
I'll just.
Okay. That being said, I need a motion to approve the consent calendar. So moved. And a second?
I second.
Up first by board member Miller and a second by board member Cruz. All in favor? Aye. Board votes aye. Any abstentions? And one abstention, passes with a 3-0-1 vote. All right, any additional administrative information, Mr. Mead?
I would just say, well, we have all these staff members here that just a big shout out to them. We were like, we didn't lose our power, but to show up on a Monday morning with your lesson plans ready to go and not have the internet to go to. They were awesome. You couldn't tell there was any difference. Everybody pivoted and did a fantastic job, and they do that day in and day out, no matter what the situation is. So public shout out to all you guys out there for really great work.
I'd like to add on to that, Mr. Mead. So since you're all here, you know, this has been a start to a school year like no other. I can't even believe it. We've been out 7 days already, and then now, you know, for somebody who has been blow drying their hair at work, I understand how it feels to be without power and without power, literally. So if I could take a moment to share, you know, I want you to know that we've been, you know, working and trying to ensure that, you know, our kids had a safe place to go, that they had food to eat, and that parents that need to go to work so that they can, you know, provide a place for kids to live. And you all do that. And in spite of doing that, you all do such a great job providing not only a fun environment, but an educational environment. So our parents last night were at our first community cabinet that we've had in a long time, since before COVID. And Mr. Bradley and I did that, and the compliments were many about what you all are doing. And so this is an opportunity for us to be able to share with the board about community cabinet, as well as all of you and the work that you're doing. Our kids do love to come to school. It'd be nice if it wasn't 30 degrees, but we don't get any additional information from Edison. We sit in line with every other customer, and they don't give any special considerations to where schools are, and the grids are not grids. It's like a bowl of spaghetti, so there's no rhyme or reason to it. So when we're trying to make recommendations for the board and they're making decisions on what we should do, we want to provide for our kids first, make sure our employees are safe, and then wait for more information to come. And so I want you to understand a little bit about how we do that, and know that you are welcome to ask questions anytime, and we'll share with you, you know, what is going on. But thank you for your diligence. Whether you had power or not, you still prepared for the fear of not having it. So thank you.
Any board member comments?
I'd like to compliment CECA on having a band and expanding it. That's awesome. And also to echo what Mrs. Spinks said, I have a generator, so I could blow dry my hair. But it was frigid in my house, so I can't imagine what that must have been like teaching and I appreciate the diligence of the teachers and all the people who support them, the people sitting at this table, and everybody that works to keep everything going.
Well, I just want to say, I think all teachers' middle name is Pivot, right? A lot of middle people have to do that. And I commend all of you guys that are sitting here right now, and the people that weren't able to come, to tell them how appreciative we are for teachers and the staff to have a safe place for the kids to learn, and also to be comforted with food and education. So thank you guys. Thank you, CECA, for doing everything that you do on a daily basis. So thank you.
Board member Miller?
First, Mary, thank you for letting us know that. I'm sure the recertification process is a lot of work. So to all those that are on that, doing that, which would probably be the whole school, thank you for all your hard work in doing that. I know you're gonna pass with flying colors, so you know about it. Also, about the no internet, I know it's gotta be tough. I know we depend on it a lot, just at home, just my little things getting on and not being able to get on and stuff, so I appreciate all staff. I know it's gotta be hard. I appreciate that you guys have your lessons planned, everything that, you're ready, on the ready. And I'm sure it's not easy in the office either without internet. So, to all staff, I appreciate you and thank you for doing all that you do.
I'd just like to echo those sentiments. First of all, I'm a band geek 11 years, so good job on the band. And I just want you to know that this is the longest amount of time that any board member has ever spoken at a CECA thing. So we just take to heart that we really truly appreciate your hard work. Thank you so very much for all the things that you do. So have a wonderful week. Amy Leader. Thanks, Brendan. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I would like to note that we have 4 board members in attendance and we have established a quorum. Can I get a motion to, I'm sorry, are there any adjustments to the agenda this evening?
Yes, President Vogt, there are items 8.02 through 8.11. I would like to ask the board to pull these items. These are concerning with Title IX, and due to a federal court ruling on January 9th, we are to vacate these regulations in their entirety. The ones that are being vacated are woven into these new policies, so our legal brief said that we should wait, and we will probably bring this back, I would imagine, in a year or so when it finally gets worked out. But Dr. Lingerfelter will follow up with correspondence, and so for our current, any current Title IX issues that we're having, we'll go back to the old regulations. So these will be pulled for now.
All right, thank you very much. On that note, can I get an approval of the agenda with the modifications or motion?
So moved.
Second.
Board Member Miller with a first and a second by Board Member Bannister, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any, obviously the passes with a 4-0 vote. We have nothing to report out from the closed session. And moving forward, I would like to invite Mr. Daniel Hurst up for our public comment.
Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be here. I was asked to come here and talk on behalf of the NYP staff at our school, but the entire staff at our school is incredible. A school is truly only as good as the people who work in it, and thank you so much to Mr. Mead for supporting my school with all the ideas that we have over at CECA. Education at CECA is a little bit different. It's multi-layered and progressive. We've recently added in a 6th grade band class. We've doubled our band. We have 43 members in our band. We also have 4 all-county band members, and students are learning more challenging music and attending festivals, which is absolutely incredible for them. Shout out to Julio Bata for that. He's the one who's now at our school site teaching band for 6th graders. Education at CECA is evolving. All teachers have taken extra time to be IB trained within the last 3 years. During this training, our staff has grown closer, allowing for easier communication between us, results in more consistency for the students. Education at CECA is impactful. We do community projects as a result of our 8th graders using a culmination of their skills and self-awareness to create a new and unique service to a community in need. Staff has worked incredibly hard to help students discover passion and zone in on their gift to the world. It's been quite the process of streamlining this and helping them work to create something that is uniquely theirs in just a 6-week time period. Education at CECA is applicable. The learning at CECA is able to come to life with staff working hard to allow our field trips to evolve as we constantly review the curriculum and ensure that our students are reinforcing and building upon their prior knowledge. Everything that I've mentioned, alongside with NYP-wide cross-curricular lessons, pro talks with collegiate post-CECA students, dances, paint nights, fall festivals, pumpkin chunking, Catalina Science Camp, Oakland Science Camp, and more are all done while adhering to the California state standards and falling within the IB standards and practices of creating globally minded young individuals. We're not without our struggles, as our diversely growing programs require space that we do not have, leaving rooms double and sometimes triple booked. The rising prices of buses have limited us from attending certain field trips, as a single bus for 2 hours from the high school to CECA cost us $1,400. We will continue to work to meet our students' needs, and I encourage you to come visit our campus and witness the incredible dynamic that CECA has while educating them. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hurst. As we invite up Mrs. Dawn Madrid.
Folks, Superintendent Binks, members of the board and cabinet, thank you for the opportunity to just pop in again. I hope you and your families had a wonderful holiday season. As we enter a new year, I initially aimed to focus the theme this evening on new beginning. However, many challenges have emerged that have overshadowed the blessings we anticipated. As we prepare to return to our classrooms and students, we encounter the devastation impacting our state. Although these events are not occurring locally, many of us have felt their effects. This week has brought numerous challenges: schools without electricity, hundreds of staff without power at work and at home, and students and families coping with outages or caring for displaced loved ones. Amid this heaviness, while I wanted to discuss the excitement of the new year, the prevailing theme I observed was resiliency. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, resiliency refers to the ability to successfully adapt to stressors while maintaining psychologically well-being in the face of adversity. It embodies the ability to bounce back from the difficult experiences. Resiliency is not a trait that people either possess or lack. It is about being adaptable and flexible. It involves recognizing strengths that we may not know that we have had until we are challenged. Like many aspects in life, the more we practice resiliency, the more we learn and grow. The more we engage with resiliency, the more resilient we become. Our educators have demonstrated remarkable resiliency in overcoming obstacles this year. I have witnessed the unwavering support from professionals in this district who prioritize both adults and students. Despite the adversity, we never give up. Our educators have gone above and beyond to help and nurture the hearts of those most affected. Many have stepped in to provide shelter, resources, financial aid, food, clothing, and so much more. I have heard stories of children sleeping in their living rooms next to the fireplaces just to stay warm. The generosity of donations from the community and the colleagues, such as generators, hot showers, and essential supplies, has helped families and staff endure these hardships. Throughout all of this, our educators have consistently shown up and cared for their students. They have provided the necessary supports for each family and ensuring that while testing, assignments, and curriculum maps may have been delayed, they were making a significant difference in the lives of their students. They created an environment where students felt safe, supported, and loved. Let us celebrate the resiliency of our educators and the strength of our community as we move forward together. Through the ashes and the darkness, our professionals have been unwavering lights, continuing to be the beacons of hope within our district. They remained positive and calm while adapting minute by minute to the changes that have occurred. I loved hearing about how Mrs. Catherine Elliott, our teacher of the year, used a Bunsen burner to bring joy to her colleagues with just a warm cup of coffee. Our educators have shown incredible strength this year, and together we will keep lifting each other up and our students. As we progress through this year, we hope for positive transformation. Let us acknowledge that the remarkable individuals who are making such significant impacts on the students' lives. Today, I'm sharing a special parting gift with you, as I always do, but today, a flashlight. This flashlight symbolizes the bright light that our educators bring to our district every single day. They shine brightly, guiding and inspiring each other and our students through the challenging situations we have all faced. However, it also serves as a reminder that we always must be prepared for the unexpected, like when the power goes out and everyone needs a little light. Keep this flashlight close and let it encourage you to be ready for any challenges ahead. Let it remind us of the remarkable educators that we have in our district who continue to shine brightly. Thank you so much for the opportunity to highlight our amazing work our educators do.
I love it.
Chocolate. How do you get through this?
Thank you for the chocolate. Mr. Breyer, do you have a report for us?
I do, a good lengthy one this time. So today I wanted to really talk about our elementary schools. My goal in my reports is to incorporate all of our campuses, not just YHS. So just to start off, we'll go to Calamasa Elementary School. So their goal this year has really been to build a social emotional development and build that through activities like family events, school assemblies, PBIS awards, just large group activities. As you can see here, they've also been doing a wonderful job with that. And on the next slide, you'll see celebrating the holidays. So they had spirit weeks where all their staff dressed up, and they had a winter music performance, which was exceptional. And two students, you can see on the top left, even came up with a contest to draw gingerbread houses, which was really cool. And then Chapman Heights. So here are a bunch of pictures of the incredible team and staff that are working there. They're working mainly this year on academic growth through holistic development and trying to bring students to their full potential, which I think is awesome. And on the next slide, you can see that they're also focusing on collaboration and celebration. So through their programs like the Kindness Club, the Hugs Awards and the weekly assemblies that they always have, which I have very fond memories because I went to Chapman Heights, which I did get 2 Hugs Awards. So clearly there's a good correlation there. They also do morning messages every morning. Send out positive messages or phrases and stuff like that at Dunlap. So they've really been focusing on their English learner program, and they've been putting a lot of effort into that, and it has paid off. It's growing exceptionally well, and the performance levels are beyond what was imagined, and it's awesome. They have also came up with on the next slide, sorry, a new house system. So they take all their students and split them up into houses, and they do huge group activities school-wide, whether that's games or community building exercises and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see that they're organizing that. At Valley, in November, they really focused on their art. So they made a glow gallery, is what they called it, which was space themed glow in the dark art. And they had this out during parent teacher conference week. So when parents brought their students to do parent teacher conferences, they could also tour this, see what they've been building, and or if there was a line for the parent teacher conference, they could also go check that out. They also, on the next slide, they had a holiday open house. So they had a nice music performance, they had crafts, Santa even showed up, and it was just a bunch of family and community bonding. At Ridgeview, they have started a hiking club. So 2nd to 5th graders go out, learn about nature and all their surroundings around Yucaipa, going hikes, making friends, and slowly throughout the year, they're going to build up to getting all the way to a Zancha Peak hike, which is a very long hike. It's a good one. On the next slide. So Ridgeview is also very focused on their integrated curriculum implementation. So learning through cross-curricular integration, which is stuff like active learning, combining, so going inside and doing things, or technology, and really finding new ways to learn. So like here you can see some kids are measuring the playground, and then they're gonna design their perfect playground, and or they're using the Chromebooks to start learning how to research on their own if they have questions about science and stuff like that. So that's all I have on the elementary schools. And then we also experienced power outages throughout the district this week. As you can see in these pictures, there were no lights at YCJUSD for a little bit, but the students, we stayed strong and we still found ways to learn. On the top left, you can see me. I have my phone flashlight set up so I can still look at my worksheet and keep working in 0 period. Teachers used candles to light their classrooms and came up with alternate activities that we could still learn from. And like was said in the CECA board meeting, they really pivoted and showed their adaptability and made sure that we're still learning. We're not just sitting in class doing nothing. We were still learning some. It was different, and we will have to push the curriculum back a little bit, but can't always control that. So it was the best of a bad situation. Yeah, that's all I have.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to section 6. We are at 6.01, discussing the discussion action for the Yucaipa Branch Library Project. Do you have any information on this, Superintendent Hughes?
I do, thank you, Board President Bogue. I just wanted to share that the succession of this has gone with the city of Yucaipa approving the agreement first. then it going to this board, and then it will next go to the Board of Supervisors. After that, it will go back to the city of Yucaipa to go out for bid to see what the actual cost for the library is. If it is approved this evening, that's how it would move forward. And then there really isn't a commitment until those other pieces get put into place so that there's a no cost. And there's no cost to us, as a reminder. Our contribution is the land, and the ask that we have that is in the contract is that we would be able to have access to rooms in the library exclusively for student use and during the day, and we could have some programs there. So if the library project comes to fruition, we would be collaborating with the county of San Bernardino, with the owner of the building being the city of Yucaipa, and thanking all of the donors that would make that come to fruition.
Can I get a motion for approval for item number 6.01? The library branch project. So can I get a second?
I'll second it.
And then I have a motion for approval on the library project for 6.01 by Miller, and a second by Board Member Bannister. Do I have any discussion? Questions?
I just want to say I appreciate the very cautious approach that we took, and the diligence in making sure that our interests were preserved. And I certainly hope that this can work.
Anyone else? All right, with a motion and a second, can I get all those in favor to approve item number 6.01? Vote, can I get an aye vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, that is with a 4-0 vote, motion passes. And then moving on to item number 6.02. Resolution establishing committed fund balance in the general fund. Superintendent needs to have anything on this one. Can I get a motion for approval on item number 6.02?
I move approval.
Can I get a second?
I second.
With a motion by Board Member Bannister and a second by Board Member Cruz, do I have any questions or discussion on this item? No. All right, all those in favor for approval, can I get an aye vote on that?
Aye.
Any nays? Chair votes aye, I'm sorry. Motion passes with a 4-0 vote. And for the next two items, 6.03 and 6.04, I will be recusing myself for possible financial gain. So Clerk Miller will be taking over from this point until this discussion.
All right, thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Item 6.03 is business services. It's for the softball field and weight room project at Yucaipa High School to be paid out of Community Facilities District number 1, and it looks like there's a lot of things that they're going to be doing with this, making it ADA compliant, fixing the field, modernizing, etc. Things that need to be done. Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any questions or comments?
No, I'm glad we're finally getting around to it.
Yeah. No, no. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? I vote aye. The item passes with 3 ayes and 1 abstention.
Board Member Miller, may I just make a statement?
Mhm.
I just want to share that when something comes up like this, where a board member has to recuse themselves, we go through a process with legal counsel. Sometimes there is a mandatory recusal. Sometimes it's just it has an appearance of an impropriety, but it's not an impropriety. It's just a material conflict. But I wanted the public to know that for Ms. Vogue, we wanted to make sure that that she had the opportunity to hear the legal opinion and take the action that she felt was most appropriate. And the attorney's recommendation was you don't have a material gain for this yourself, but if you'd like to recuse yourself, you would. And so what that contributes to is you go into the room, you don't listen to the conversation, you wait until the votes are complete and then you come back out. So thank you for letting me explain that just for our public's sake.
No problem. All right, then the next is item 6.04. Is the inspector of record for the softball field and weight room project, Ukai High School. It's to be paid out of the Community Facilities District number 1. Do I have a motion for approval? I have a motion by Board Member Bannister to approve the item. Do I have a second?
I have a second.
The second by Board Member Cruz. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? I vote aye. The item passes with 3 ayes and 1 abstention. All right, and then next is 6.05, and I think Kathy will be coming back.
So that puts us on item 6.04, correct? 05. 6.05, business services. Yeah. Do we have any information for this one?
This is our wide area network. I don't know, Dr. Anderson, if you have anything you'd like to comment, but this is for the bid that went out for Vector Charter. It's awarding the bid to the lowest responsive bidder, and that is Vector USA.
No.
I'm sorry, am I on the wrong page? I am. Frontier, my apologies, yeah.
Around 6.05.
Yes, I'm sorry. Total bids were Vector USA and Charter Spectrum, and then the award of the bid is going to Frontier Communications.
Can I get a motion for move approval on item number 6.05? Can I get a motion for that first?
So moved.
And can I get a second?
Second.
Motion by Clerk Miller and second by Board Member Bannister. Any questions or on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That with a 4-0 vote, motion passes. Moving on to 6.06 or business services or piggyback legal bids, and these are basically just things that we are able to save money on as far as literally piggybacking on other people's work, and they save us a ton of money. So can I get a motion for approval on 6.06? Can I get a first?
Approval.
All right. Can I get a second?
I second.
The motion for first by Board Member Bannister and a second by Board Member Cruz. Can I get all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes with a 4-0 vote. Moving on to item number 6.07. Can I get a motion for approval? Move approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
First by Board Member Bannister, second by Clerk Miller. Does anybody have any questions on this one? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye, motion passes with a 4-0 vote. Moving on to item 6.07, no, 6.08, business services.
Move approval.
Can I get a second on that?
I second that.
With a first from Board Member Bannister and a second from Board Member Cruz. Do we have any information or?
I just want to share that we are appreciative of the board's patience as we work through the lack of having an assistant superintendent of business services. Wanted to make sure that I gave Amber recognition and Dennis recognition. They've been doing a lot of extra work as well as Adam and the whole team, but we appreciate the board's ability to help us to do things to help move business services along. Also going back to the modular work that will be done at the high school for the training room. It's going to help us to be compliant. We're going to have a nice place for our female sports and male sports to work in a safe environment. And I want to thank Dennis and Leslie for their work. The piggyback bids make things easier, but it's still a lot of work that goes into it. By the time we're able to bring it to you for approval, there's probably 6 to 8 months that have gone on prior to. So thank you so much for your support of these items.
All right, with that, we are currently discussing 6.08. I have a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Chair votes aye, motion passes with a 4-0 vote. Moving on to 6.09. Business Services Second Review for Revised Board Policy Number 3555, Nutrition Program Compliance. Can I get a first?
Move approval.
And can I get a second on that?
Second.
With a first from Board Member Bannister and a second from Clerk Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes with a 4-0 vote. Moving on to 6.10, Business Services Roof Repair in Dunlap. Do you have any information on this, of course?
I do. This is the roof that rolled itself up and decided to quit during the windstorm. It was an amazing thing. In fact, if you looked at the kindergarten building, it looked like the roof had blown away, but actually, when you got on top of the roof, which I did not do, but it actually rolled itself back. And so this is an emergency order to ask for the approval to fix the roof. The wood is exposed, and so it needs to be done. And we'll go with our standard that we've been doing, which is the weather weld, which will last about 40 years. So, so that'll be a nice repair. Also, wanted to share that when we've reached the end of our ability to do the work, which we've done a lot of roofing projects. So we had to go through the county superintendent of schools to get an additional waiver to actually be able to add to the contract work. So I want to thank Lena and her team for getting it through quickly so we could get it on the board agenda for tonight so that we could get it done before any rain comes. And so that work will be done pretty quickly. Yes, Dennis?
Starting next Monday.
There we go. Next Monday. So thank you for that.
Can I get a motion for approval?
Thank you for that.
Can I get a support on that? Okay. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, with a motion from Board Member Breyer and with support from Board Member Cruz and a second from Clerk Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes with a 5-0 vote.
Let's hope working on the roof prompts some rain.
Great, isn't it? With our ideas of continued safety, we are moving on to 6.11, 6.11, business services removal of the eucalyptus trees. Would you like to?
Yes, I love trees, just so you all know, but we've got some eucalyptus trees that are on the side of the high school. We actually had a limb fall not too long ago on a teacher's car. So we took care of that one, but they remain a problem. Also, eucalyptus trees are faithfully messy and yes. And we're finding that with the Chapman Heights HOA, it interferes with keeping that drainage ditch clean. And so with the strong winds that we've had, we figured this was the time to take them down, unfortunately, because we do love trees, but they are a safety hazard. So thank you for the consideration of doing that with us.
That information, can I get a motion for approval on this?
I do have a question
Yes,
also.
sir.
Would we be replacing the trees, so we still have some, just removing?
We're going to have to go and assess that because of the growing concern about the HOA and the city of Yucaipas drain that is on our property. We need to make sure if we are going to plant additional trees that we're really thoughtful about what we plant there, so we don't have invasive roots or we don't have shedding and all this. I'm spending a lot of time in the tree books, but if we are able to do it, we will. If not, we will come up with hopefully some other plan for landscaping.
Any other questions on that? Can I get a motion for approval on that for 6.11?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. So I have a motion by Clerk Miller and a second by Mr. Breyer with support from Board Member Cruz. Can I get all those in favor for approval?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion is approved with a 4-0 vote. Moving on to 6.12, we are moving into educational services. Do you have any information on this?
Thank you, President Vogt. Annually, we are required as a school district to bring forward our school accountability report cards for each school. except our early childhood education center, which is our preschool, and also our adult school as well. So that's why those two are not on here. So that's what these cards are. It's basically information from each school site, including the school's own individual information, including facilities as well.
Anybody have any questions? Can I get a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion by Board Member Bannister and a second by Clerk Miller. All those in favor? Or Chair votes aye. Motion passes with a 4-0 vote. Moving on to item number 613, educational services. Again, do you have any information for us?
Yes, I do. At this time, I'd like to ask our executive director, Mr. Kirkland, to come up and provide additional information. He's going to provide information on this year's technology refresh plan. Thank you, Mr. Kirkland.
Absolutely. Good evening, Board President Bogue, members of the board, members of the board, Mr. President, Superintendent Binks, and Executive Cabinet. Very much appreciate the opportunity to speak with you briefly tonight. It was almost exactly a year ago that I was able to do the introduction of the technology refresh plan. So this is kind of an update to that. Just as a quick premise on that particular piece of it is when we were going into COVID, we were given a ton of money from the federal government to help support distance learning, which was great. And it really helped us upgrade a lot of our systems and actually kind of build our armory of technology district-wide. The great part about that was we were able to supply a lot of services very quickly. The bad part is when you get all new things all at once, they become all old all at once. So a technology refresh plan where a cycle is kind of developed is actually very advantageous for us so that we don't get hit with a gigantic bill all at once to get our systems back up and running where they need to be. So tonight is a little bit of an opportunity to look at some of those dates and some of the progress that we've made and then answer the questions that you may have. So one of them you've already addressed with our Frontier internet, and that's a little bit of what this is about. But again, be happy to answer any questions as we go. So if you don't go to the next one. So technology in our world is really divided up into two houses. Our infrastructure side of the house, which is the part that just makes things work. It's the cabinets in closets that nobody ever goes in. It's the cabling in the walls. It's the stuff that you shouldn't have to know about unless you want to. And then we have the instructional side of what we use in our classrooms, what students use, what teachers use. It's the programs that we decide to purchase with input. It's our digital curriculum. So both of those worlds kind of both fall under the umbrella of what we do with technology. Good. So specifically, the infrastructure technology, and this is a very, very simplistic list. We're talking about edge switches, fiber cabling, and our wide area network, which is Frontier services. That's our broadband that brings services, phones, internet into our schools. Instructional technology, again, stuff in classrooms, that's going to be our Chromebooks and the updating of our current desktop computers, Windows 10. I'll talk about that as well. What might be in our distant, not too distant future is the fact that we are going to have to start looking at our integrated systems of communication, our bell systems, and our PA systems on our campuses. Traditionally, those have been kind of operated through M&O. They have kind of serviced them. They've been kind of power speaker cabling going directly to a speaker. But what's happening is as those things fail and repairs are needed, they're so antiquated, they're so old, we're literally turning to eBay to buy replacement parts. And that's not a place we want to be. New systems, however, are integrated into technology. And while M&O currently has the responsibility of servicing those and making sure that they're working correctly, the future of them probably is going to start having a reality in the IT department. They're going to be networked. They're going to have the ability for us to be able to see them, troubleshoot them, program them remotely, and do all the things that technology now has the ability to do. So we haven't probably looked at bell systems or PA systems district-wide or at individual school sites in quite some time. So anyway, that's probably in our future.
Okay, I have a question. Didn't we, and forgive me because time passes, did we replace the bell system at Ridge U? Was there, it was going,
I think it was
is that a
Ms.
long
Mashler,
time
that
ago?
was the cabling that went out that was recently replaced there.
That was, yeah, that was fiber. You're talking about last year?
No, I think I'm talking about further back than that, so maybe it's just ancient.
That
Okay,
was just the
never mind.
controller that actually connected the audio to the speakers.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Even that's old and that's the newest one.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So anyway, that's in our future. We're not preparing to present on anything for that tonight, but that's a discussion that's gonna probably need to happen. Specifically, as far as infrastructure is concerned, we're talking about what's called the edge switches, the fiber cabling, and then the WAN, the wide area network, which is your internet, it's your Wi-Fi, it's your phone systems. It's all the services that are brought in from Frontier. And we did go through a bid process. The nice part about infrastructure is infrastructure can largely be taken care of with E-rate. And you've probably heard E-rate come through here and there. E-rate is funded by FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, and it is dependent upon your ADA for your district and your duplicated count, so free and reduced lunch for the most part. And that gives you an equation of how much money you get for a 5-year period of time. We're getting ready to end our E-rate cycle right now. We have a new one that's going to start up in 25-26 school year. Our last cycle was about $1.2 million. Over a 5-year period of time. We predict it's going to be somewhat similar to that again, so 1.2, 1.3 million, if all the numbers stay the same. So that will be the number that we have for a 5-year cycle. The nice part about E-rate is you can spend it in one lump sum on one big project, or you can spread it out however you want, but you have 5 years to spend that amount of money. So the nice part about it is it can really go to help paying for a lot of your stuff. Our goal will be to spend every single dime of federal government's money before we spend it. So we'll do that. Our current E-rate, we don't have a dollar. So very much. So real quick before I move off of that, there's a lot of private updates or taking purchase. We refer to switches, and I know for a lot of people, so
Thank you. I love that technology.
That one's a little bit better. Okay. We talk about switches a lot, and when we're talking about switches in our world, we're not talking about wall switches, and you probably confuse a lot of times when you see bills come up for about $11,000 each. They're specifically referring to what I have on the table back here for a little show and tell. These are the switches that we are actually installing in our rooms and our IDF cabinets. These are what drive our networks and kind of connect everything together. That in combination with the Frontier agenda item that you just talked about, that's what actually kind of connects us with the county and all those other services. So it's a very, very integrated system, very sophisticated, but that's what a switch actually looks like. And if you really, really want to know about networking, swing by our office. I have guys that will talk your ears. So real quick, these are the numbers of the items of our major network piece of equipment that we had last year that we presented to you. The two terms at the top that I want to go ahead and just draw your attention to is EOS, which is end of sales, which means that's when they stop selling that particular item. Now that's not particularly alarming. It's just when they stop selling it, it's because they've gone to a new version of whatever that piece of equipment is. Big deal. We can still get parts, and we still have technicians, certified technicians that can work on things when they fail. The next column is DOO, date of obsolescence. That means at that particular point, nobody will touch it, nobody's certified. If you got to get a technician to come out, you're calling a guy who knows a guy who might be able to fix it. And that's not a place we want to be working on network equipment. So that's the column that we really, really have to be cognizant of. And we're constantly working to replace the equipment that's attached to the dates. Now, the good part is we only have one date up there, and those are for our Ed switches 3560, that model, that particular one that we were worried about. So that was last year when we presented originally. And then when we go out to our refresh stuff, we turn all those cabinets from what you're going to see in the next slide. Go ahead, Lance. Which is that on the left. And we get in there and we start cleaning things up. I'm a stickler for wiring. Wiring is my biggest pet peeve if it's done incorrectly. And then we turn it into what you see on the right. We upgrade the equipment, we clean up the wiring, we make it more efficient, we understand what everything's going. And then when we upgrade it, not only do we put new switches in, but then it increases our cybersecurity. It makes it to where we can patch into our support services, which is Vector. When we have a problem, they can remote in, and then they can do what's called patchwork, which means when there's a new version of the software that goes on those things, they can do it for us. It's automatically upgraded. So we have stuff that can't connect to those services right now that we're trying to fix. And they're on versions that are 10 years old. That's obviously a problem for us. So this is what the difference between a refreshed, this is called an IDF cabinet, individual data frame. And every campus has a number of them, maybe a dozen. Ukiah High School probably has close to 40 of them that all kind of come together into one room. Those rooms all connect to what we call our main data frame, and then it connects to the cabinet. So that's a before and after picture of what refresh does on our infrastructure. This is where we're at now with those same numbers as far as what we've been able to do in 1 year's time. And again, these pieces of equipment that we're putting in place, they're expensive. They really are. So we're very cognizant of what we do with them, where we put them, and why. So we've been able to cut them in half as far as the ones that are date of obsolescence, to where if they failed, we really have no alternative. And then we're also able to make some improvement on our others. We're in pretty good shape on most of our main devices. The ones that are still out there in use, we've been able to put them in very strategic locations to where if there is issues, it's not going to cause us the biggest problems. They don't connect to classrooms. They don't connect to anything really critical for the operation of what we're doing as far as teaching. What they are connected to is it might actually have a problem with a bell in a classroom in a particular part of the school. So what's happening though is as we replace other devices, we're starting to swap them out and try to get them off of our load as best we can. So the bad part is we're replacing them with older devices, but they're still at least serviceable. Okay. So anyway, we've made a lot of progress. These are expensive items, so I'd like to say we could do it all in one big swoop, but it's just not. That's what we're currently sending on our accounts. And again, we're in pretty good shape, but obviously as we get money, especially rate funding, we'll tackle bigger projects and probably take on the high school next year.
So I think you probably already mentioned this, but remind me, how often does E-rate get refunded?
Every 5 years.
Every 5 years?
Yeah.
And so how does that require an act of legislation to have that happen?
The guidelines from the FCC are already laid out. What we'll have to do is we'll have to go through an audit, and we actually have a consultant firm that does that for us. To where we will give them all of our data as far as our ADA and our unduplicated accounts. They submit it to the FCC on our behalf. They will come back with a dollar amount that we earn and a percentage. So last time we were about 80%. So the FCC covered 80% of the costs of our E-rate expenditures up to $1.2 million. It's probably going to be pretty close to the same, but I don't have that exact dollar amount yet. It hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's going to be pretty close though.
Okay, and how long has that been around? Just roughly, if you don't know, I understand.
I don't know as long as I think I've been in education, which has been a minute.
Okay,
So
all right, good.
E-rate's not new.
Okay,
Yeah, it's very, very, it's got a lot of red tape. It is the epitome of a government run program. However, they're willing to pick up a bill on a lot of expensive equipment for us. So it's worth the time.
Yeah.
So.
thank you.
As far as our instructional technology, the main thing that we're trying to do is get our Chromebooks also serviceable and up to speed. So we purchased district-wide during COVID, approximately 10,000 Chromebooks. Those Chromebooks now are going on 5 and 6 years old. Industry standard says if you can get 3 or 4 years out of a student Chromebook, you've done well. Ours are going on 5 and 6. So it's a compliment to our students, treating them pretty well. Our teachers taking care of their equipment in the classrooms, and our tech team being able to do most basic repairs for our teachers and get them back into service without basically, putting them aside for e-waste. So we've done a really good job of using the ones we have effectively, but it's time. So last year, we had the ability to go ahead and purchase approximately 2,200 Chromebooks. We took care of all teachers in classes in grades 3 through 5. And then there's a proposal on the agenda tonight for taking care of our middle schools, six through eight, at all three of our campuses. If we're able to do that, we will have enough of our older generation Chromebooks to service the high school in repairs and support them probably for the next couple of years until this next proposal comes out. And I probably won't be bringing that to you anytime soon. So they are expensive, but again, we're getting a good amount of time out of them. And with recent legislation that was passed, that's called the Right to Repair Act. Vendors and producers of these products that we use, in our case, we like Acer, they have to supply and offer parts for the devices that we buy for up to 10 years. Now, that does not mean that their devices last for 10 years. Some of these are used aggressively. Sometimes they don't last, sometimes they're thrown across classrooms, and sometimes you find a bologna sandwich stuck in. It happens. So some of them last a lot longer than others. It really depends on the use that they have, but it does give us a little bit more options of being able to repair them for ourselves and keep them in service longer. So we're hoping for that. So that's I'm going to go to the next one. This is what we were able to go ahead and purchase last year. At the end of last year, our team was able to go ahead and roll all these devices. It takes a long time to do, organize them, and then deploy them to the sites. We were able to hit our elementary schools mostly on Friday afternoons when they have good days, and go in. And a lot of times they didn't even know that we were there. We replaced them all. Teachers came back at Chromebook cards. We're hoping to do something similar with our middle schools coming up with our next purchase. So CECA and the numbers, Parkview and Mason View, those are the numbers of devices that we need for each particular site to replace all the Chromebooks in all those classrooms at that particular time. And if we were able to do that kind of on this timeline, then we're probably about 4 or 5 weeks out. And as far as the order is concerned, and it could be a May going into June project for us. The teachers doesn't have to put in this year. That is kind of it, unless you want to get into networking 101.
I think we're okay on that. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Kirkland? Any further questions? All right, that being said, I don't believe I called for a motion on this for approval. Can I get a motion? Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion by Clerk Miller and a second by Student Board Member Breyer. Can I get support on?
Oh, I'll support that.
With support from Board Member Bannister, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye with a 5-0 vote. Motion passes.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kirkland. That was wonderful. Anytime I was going to ask a question, you answered it. So thank you. All right, moving on to 6.14, we are human resources. Do we have any information on this? Moving forward.
Yeah, thank you, President Bo. What you have before you tonight is a resolution 13 for the 24-25 school year, acknowledging and recognizing the week of February 3rd as National School Counseling Week. Obviously, our school counselors in all of our schools, elementary, secondary, alternative, middle school, everywhere, are integral to what we do and how we serve our students. So this acknowledges their great work. The theme this year is helping students thrive.
All right, with that being said, I would like to entertain a motion for approval. Move approval. And a second on that? A second. I have first by Board Member Bannister and a second by Board Member Cruz. All those in favor? Aye. And the chair votes aye with the motion passes with a 4-0 votes. And item number 6.15, also with human resources. This is the second review. Do we have any information on this or are we good to move forward? Okay. Can I get a motion for approval on a second review for new board policy 4154, health and welfare benefits? Can I get a second? A second. I have a first by Clerk Miller and a second by Board Member Cruz. Does anybody have any questions on this one? All right, with that being said, can I, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes with a 4-0 vote. Moving on to the consent calendar, are there any items needed to be removed for consideration other than the minutes from Board Member Bannister? Hearing none, I would like to, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar? And can I get a second?
Second.
A motion by Board Member Cruz and a second by Clerk Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any nays? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Uh,
The item on the minutes.
yes, ma'am. Item on the minutes only, noted. So the consent calendar passes with a 301 vote. Now, moving on to section 8, we do not, since we have removed items number 8.01 through 8.02. My apologies. Okay, so we're going to be voting on or discussing items number 8.01, that would be our business services. Do we have any information on this?
Yes, we actually have a report by our auditor, and so Mr. Tarantino, Joe is going to come forward. And also, I would like to thank Amber for working through the audit. This is our second round with, first round with our audit firm, but they've been out twice. And so with this point, he's going to give you his report and his findings and share with you a little bit about ways that we can improve our district. I want to thank him. He drove a long way from San Diego to be here instead of zooming in or anything. So Joe, thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Madam President Bo, members of the board, Superintendent Mrs. Binks. My name is Joe Tarantino, Senior Manager with CWDL. It's an honor to be here tonight to present the audit report for the High Battalion Joint Unified School District. Will the PowerPoint be coming on today? Okay. Before we jump into the presentation, on behalf of CWDL, I would like to recognize and express our gratitude and appreciation for the Fiscal Services Coordinator, Mrs. Amber Tavis, her fiscal team, along with the school sites, district departments, for their preparation and dedication in providing the requested items in a timely manner, which resulted in a complete and smooth audit process. Overall, a very positive experience and speaks volume to the district's management and leadership team. Next.
Just a moment, Joe.
We're catching up.
While we're waiting, I will share that Joe spent some time on the phone with me. It seems like 5 days ago, but I think it was just yesterday or the day before.
But we've been emailing.
Yes, intermittent with the wind, going over the audit report. It was the board's idea along with recommendations from business services as we changed audit firms. And I shared with him that it's been really important to us to make sure that as we changed firms that we had a different lens. And I appreciated Joe's thoughts about each auditor within a firm looks at things differently. And Joe's been a CBO before. And so with his experience, he was able to look differently at what our divisions are doing. And so I appreciated it because we want to make sure if he finds findings, that's great. Then we can fix them. And so thank you for changing audit firms too, because it allowed us just to have a different lens. While all auditors look for the same things, sometimes they see them differently. And I appreciated the education you gave me.
Yes, thank you. On today's agenda, we'll be reviewing and discussing the services and deliverables of the audit report, components of the audited financial statements, summary of the audit results, and then some key financial highlights. Next slide, please. So for the services and deliverables, within the audit report, you'll find 4 comprehensive deliverable reports that the auditors are solely responsible of. They're more or less our opinions on the financial statements as well as the controls over the internal controls that the district has implemented. So the first opinion is the opinion over the district's financial statements, referred to as the independent auditor's report, which is noted on page 1 through 3 of the report. The next 3 are going to be located in the back half of the audit report, in the other auditor's report section, starting on page 87. So the second deliverable is the assessment of the district's internal controls over financial reporting and compliance, which is on page 87 and 88. The third deliverable is an opinion over federal programs and compliance required by uniform guidance. And this can be found on page 89 through 91. And lastly, the opinion of the district's compliance of state programs as described in the guide for annual audits of K through 12 LEAs noted on pages 92 through 95. And we'll touch a little bit more on these later in the presentation. Moving on to the components and layout of the audit financial statements, as previously noted, on page 1 is the independent auditor's report. This is how the report opens up. Here we express an unmodified opinion on the district's financial statements. It's a very favorable opinion. It's the highest and best level of assurance an auditor can express and issue. We noted that the district's financial statements and financial position are fairly stated within all material respects. So what that means is the information that management provided appears to be reasonable, complete, and it's all reflective in the financial statements. Next slide, please. On pages 4 through 12 of the report, you will find the management discussion and analysis. This is also known as the MD&A. The MD&A provides the district an opportunity to discuss at a high level the financial highlights and delivers comparative information from prior year to help explain any significant changes during the 23-24 school year. Next is the basic financial statements that are presented on pages 13 through 18. Here's you're going to find more of the financial information. It includes the government-wide statement of net position and the statement of activities. Essentially, these statements function as the balance sheet which details the district's assets and liabilities, and income statement outlining its revenues and expenses. They are prepared on a full accrual method of accounting, which focuses on long-term items such as capital assets and long-term debt. Next is the fund financial statements. These are prepared using modified accrual basis of accounting, which typically exclude those long-term items. In addition, you'll find reconciliation pages following those to help bridge the gap between the government-wide and the fund financial basis of accounting. Slide 6, please. Additional components of the financial statements include notes to the financial statements, which provide greater detail on the district's accounting policies and account balances and activities that were incurred during fiscal year 23-24. Next is the required supplementary information. This is required by the Governmental Auditing Standards Board. There's information on here that provides funding and other obligations, or such as retirement benefits, including 10-year histories of schedules for the other post-employment benefits, also known as OPEB, along with the net pension liability. Then we have the supplementary information, which provides additional details beyond what is required for the basic financial statements and the required supplementary information noted above. Then we have the other independent auditors reports that we previously touched on. So the first one is going to be the independent auditors report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance in accordance with government auditing standards. The intent of this report is to communicate the results of our evaluation of the district's internal controls over financial reporting, as well as any significant compliance issues identified during the audit of the financial statements. Essentially, it provides an insight into the reliability of the financial reporting process and whether the district is adhering to relevant laws and regulations. The next report is the independent auditor's report on compliance for each major federal program and report on internal controls over compliance required by uniform guidance. The purpose of this report is to assess whether or not the district complied with specific compliance requirements associated with federal programs that we were required to test. Since the district expended more than $750,000, we reviewed certain federal programs that were subject to audit for this school year, and we'll touch on those in a little bit. And then lastly, there's the independent auditors report on state compliance and internal controls over compliance for state programs. In accordance with Education Audit Appeals Panel, also known as EAP, we're required to evaluate and review and perform compliance testing of certain state programs. These programs are listed on pages 93 and 94 within the audit report. And then finally, the summary of the auditor's results, which spans through pages 96 through 104. Slide 7, please. So as shown, on the left is an excerpt on page 96. This is the summary of the auditor's results, which indicate an unmodified opinion for the financial statements, federal awards, and state awards. However, we did note a material weakness in internal controls over financial reporting. And we also noted one finding related to state compliance that we'll dive in a little bit deeper. Next slide, please. So finding number 1, this is the material weakness related to the financial statements preparation. Here, basically what we noted was some adjustments, significant adjustments that we had to make the financial statements materially correct, which are reflected in the numbers presented before you today. An example of this is the district issued debt for $38.3 million related to the solar purchase agreement. Those accounting activities was not initially reported in the unaudited actuals of the district when the district was closing. So we reflected those funds within the audit reports. Some other items included the accounting for lease receivables and the related deferred inflows, the lease receivables related to the charter school, as well as the AT&T cell tower lease at Ukaipa High School. So we made sure those were incorporated as well. And lastly, any ASP activity, I think there was some cash that wasn't updated that we reflected on the books as well. Slide 9. So we are working with the district. The district is going to review their year-end closing process and revise any adjusting entries and proper cutoff periods that need to take place. And as auditors, we like to develop a rapport and be an aid and a resource for the district. As Mrs. Bean said, I've had 12 years in fiscal at a school district, so I'd be more than happy to help the district during the closing and answer any questions when possible. Slide 10. Finding number 2 is related to independent study. Not to be worrisome here, I would like to let the board know independent study findings have been common since the Assembly Bill 130 has been implemented. That bill has made significant changes and impacts to rules and regulations related to independent study. And there's been continuous changes that are being reflected in the governor's enacted budgets for the last few years. And in fact, independent study has changed again in 24-25. So I don't want you to be alarmed about this finding. It's a very minimal, but since it's compliance, we have to report it. Our finding here is related to Education Code 51747 and required elements that need to be documented in the written agreements. Some of the items that were not completed or that were missing in the contracts that we tested were the manner, time, frequency, and place for submitting assignments. Some specific language or statement detailing the academic and other support that will be provided to address the needs of the pupil who are not performing at grade level. And then lastly, signatures affixed within the prescribed timeframe. Here, there are two different timeframes depending if you're on a short-term contract or long-term contract. Long-term contracts, the contracts needed to be signed before the commencement of independent study. Short-term contracts, the signatures need to take place within the 10 days, within the first 10 days of the contract being signed. Additionally, short-term independent study for 23-24 could not exceed 14 school days. We did note a few contracts that did go above and beyond the 14 school days. This has changed in 24-25, so the district is aware of that and is making corrections accordingly. Next slide, please. The district incorporated the question days to reflect in their P2 attendance reports and annual attendance reports. We did state a question cost because that is required by the state. If the corrections were not made, the fiscal penalty from based on our finding would have been $5,302. Like I said, very minimal for the ADA. I know the district is in the process or they've already had hosting in-person trainings for site staff and updating the master agreements. We've actually had a few meetings with the attendance accounting at the district office to review the independent study contract that is going online or through the student information system, the SIS. To help relieve some of these issues and elements, just so they can't be left blank. Next slide, please. Now turning our gears into the financial highlights. Here we would like to, from the government-wide, again, meaning all funds and resources of the district on a full accrual method of accounting, the ending net position increased by 12.3 million to a total of 90.4 million for the district. Total assets and deferred outflows increased by 57 million, while liabilities and deferred inflows increased by 44.7. About 80% of the expenses were for instruction related and pupil services. So that's good to see. It's going towards educating pupils. The capital assets increased to 111.8 million as a result of continued investment in construction, building renovations, and equipment purchases. Next slide, please. The district's debt increased 54.1 million, mainly due to the increase of the private placement debt, other post-employment benefits, also known as the net OPEB, and net pension liability. So here I depicted what the main contributors were. Obviously, the $38.3 million of that solar purchase agreement, over $1 million in the net OPEB liability, and then for the net pension, 15.6 million. Next slide, please. I wanted to bring out the net pension liability in particular. So the district really has no control over that. This is the district's proportionate share based on what the state's actuarial evaluation is. Currently, there is a discount rate, or meaning the expected return of the pension system. As you can see for CalSTRS, it's 7.1 and CalPERS was 6.9. And the purpose of this slide is to demonstrate how volatile the pension system based on a 1% increase or decrease of the discount rate is. So as you can see, there's an inverse relationship. The higher the discount rate is, the lower the liability, because they would see greater gains. And as you can see, if they 1% would be for CalSTRS about $40 million difference in terms of the liability. So again, there's nothing to be concerned about. This is just recognizing the district's proportionate share of the state pension liability that is required to be reported. But as you can see, it's it could swing based on the assumptions used at the state level. Next slide, please. Additional financial highlights. Now I would like to focus on the governmental fund and the individual funds. The district's general fund had an ending balance that increased 6.6 million to 40.7 million. However, for financial statement purposes, the general fund balances do include activities from Fund 17, which is the special reserve for other than capital outlay fund. Fund 20, which is the special reserve for other post-employment benefits, and Fund 67, which is the self-insurance fund. And this is all due to the to recognize in accordance with the Government Accounting Standards Board number 54, the consolidation of those funds are now reported in Fund 1. And then, as you can see below, here's a summary of the financial activity and ending fund balance for all the other funds. Next slide, please. Within the notes to the financial statements, I wanted to point out on page 63, note 18, which explained the restatement of beginning balances for a few of the for one fund and the governmental activities, meaning government-wide. This is due to the prior year audit not including the AT&T cell tower lease located at Yucaipa High School. We reflected the beginning balance to be on there, so then you would have more or less true comparative financial statements. And then also we did notice on the 2022 lease financing agreement, purchase agreement, there were two, actually more than two, it was 2 years worth, the 27-28 and 28-29 principal payments that were excluded from prior year audit report. After inquiry with management, it was believed that the district is still responsible for those principal payments, so we went ahead and made them reflected on the financial statements as well. Next slide, please. On page 81 of the audit report shows the audit adjustments made to the district's unaudited actuals. These are the adjustments being reflected. So the line that says fund balance transfer, GASB 54, those are going to be all those funds that roll up into Fund 1, as you can see in special reserve fund other than capital outlay projects minus 1.8 million. The special reserve fund for post-employment benefits minus 98,000, and then the other one for self-insurance that all feeds into the general fund for a positive 1.9 million. Other adjustments were made to account for the lease receivables as we previously discussed, the cash in bank for the ASP, and then cash flow fiscal agent from the debt issuance. So just kind of piecing the pieces together, or putting the pieces together on the unaudited actuals and how we got to the audited actuals. Next slide, please. Thank you for your time and attention today. This concludes the presentation. I'd be more than happy to address any questions the board may have.
Are there any questions?
No question, but thank you. That was very informative.
Thank you. Very good. All right, thank you so much. That was wonderful. And I appreciate having all of that information ahead of time. So thank you very much. Anything else on that?
Thank you, President Vogt. I would just like to add a small piece of, we appreciate the collaboration because with the feedback of findings for an independent study, we will be bringing policy changes that have happened, like he had mentioned that there has been updates with independent study requirements and guidelines. Also, we've already been piloting Mr. Kirkland and Dr. Lingenfelter in child welfare and attendance, and then also Ms. DeBoo in business has been working with the high school piloting independent study using ARIES. So it's becoming electronic, which is a lot easier for parents and students. And so we appreciate Ms. Rodriguez and Ms. Johnston and then Mr. Lewis at Yucaipa High. And I know Mr. Kirkland's also piloting at the elementary level as well to make our compliance pieces of paperwork, but also timelines of getting required signatures and work samples in so we can organize that better. So thank you for that.
Also, I would share with the $38 million, it's the first time we've had that windfall of $38 million, and that is the solar project money, and that was funded, and as Amber and I talked, that was sitting in, it's sitting in Bank of America, so we draw down from that, it's not actually in our account, so that accounting was new to us, and so now with the help of the audit, we're able to put that in, we're able to account for it even though it's not in our accounts, we had to do a different code, so these things have been really helpful, yeah, it's great, so much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, moving on to item number 8.12, human resources. Revised administrative regulation 4127, temporary athletic team coaches. Any information on this? Results, seeing no information, can I get a motion for oh wait, this is just information. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, all right, that was the first. That was the first one for Greg. Yeah, all right. Do we have any additional administrative information?
Yes. I have a list, but I would like to share with the public on behalf of the board, the timeline for the provisional appointment to fill the vacated seat by a former board member, Bob Miller, who was elected to the city council. So that night he resigned. That was accepted by the county superintendent of schools. And so we began our process to do what the city of Yucaipa did to fill their vacancy. So with that, the 9th, the resignation was announced. The 10th, the county superintendent notified the resignation. The 17th was a regular board meeting, and an action item went to decide and implement the method to fill the board vacancy and also to elect 2 board members to an ad hoc committee to make sure that the applicants that we received meet all the criteria, and that was President Bogue and Clerk Miller. They were elected to those seats. And then on January 10th, which is day 32 for us in our 65-day timeline, we advertised for applicants to serve as appointed trustees. The applicants were given the opportunity to come to the district office and understand that that's where the applications would be submitted to Ms. Bradley. On the 24th of January, the application period closes. That's day 46 for us. So that closes at 3:00 p.m., January 24th, 2025. The applicants will then on day 49 be invited once they've been reviewed and they've met the criteria by our ad hoc committee to attend interviews on January 31st, 2025. And then we would have the special board meeting on the 31st to have the board consider appointing a trustee. So we would administer the oath of office at that time if there is a board of trustee appointed. If the board chose not to appoint a trustee, then we would be exceeding our timeline. We could not go back out to seek other applicants, and then we would have to go to hold a special election. So I wanted the public to know that that is in place. We've advertised in many different spaces, local newspapers, the Sun Telegram, the Press Enterprise, online with our local news mirror, and then it'll also be in this edition, I believe, on Wednesday. And anyone who has any questions, you're welcome to email us at contact_us@ycjusd.us, or you can reach out to my office and Stella Lance or myself will help you. And we're looking forward to the opportunity to have the board give us another board member. So with that, I also wanted to share that there's been several questions about how we decide to close or stay open. And so I wanted to share that one of the things we want to do always when these decisions are made during times of wind, fire, hurricane, rain, snow, all of those things, is to make sure that our students and employees will be safe. So we don't take that lightly. While the rooms were lit by some tea lights and were creative, and we bought a lot of generators. In fact, it was great that Beaumont and Redlands were not in session. They were still on winter recess, so we didn't have to compete to buy some extra supplies. But we were able to make sure that the schools that didn't have electricity had enough light to go on. And also, we want to remember in our community that there are parents that need to go to work and there are students who need to eat. And we want to always provide them a safe place to be. So I know that there, I see it, I read it, there's chatter about that, we stay open for the money. We don't stay open for the money, we stay open to serve our students, and we do that only when it's safe and our employees are safe. When it comes to low attendance or closing the schools, the state has a mechanism, it's called a J13 form, and we can file for the money for the hardship that especially a natural disaster occurs. So it's not about bringing our kids to school for the money, it's about helping them to have a place to go. And in our community cabinet meeting that we held last night, which is the first community cabinet we've had in the district office since before COVID, we had the opportunity to talk to our parents about that, and they were saying that I needed to say that more often and explain how we make those decisions to stay open. And so Mr. Bradley and I are taking that to heart, and we're sharing that information. In our community cabinet meeting, we also were able to talk about cell phones because there is a new bill that the governor has put out. And so we had the opportunity to get our parent perspective on what they think should happen with cell phones. And so if you're interested in that, come to our next community cabinet. But we will be sharing, that information in our safety meetings and with our principals and our teachers, of course. We had about 25 people come. We did not have a power outage during our meeting, so that was great. And the other topics that we'll be working towards that they brainstormed were discipline, mental health, ROP courses, and of course, safety. And I would like to recognize the board tonight for setting aside in the general fund $2 million to go towards safety. One of the things that came up in the community cabinet meeting, and it's come up here as well, is the need to keep Yucaipa High School powered up. Mr. Kirkland talked about that's the center for our phones and our internet. And so we want to make sure that we can get the right kind of generator, whether it's on a big giant truck or sitting on a big giant slab. I'm not the expert in that, but we want to make sure we have those. So with that, the board has allocated those dollars tonight for us to be able to work really diligently. And we will be doing that not only from a district emergency operations center and a city's emergency operations, as well as the county, but also with our school sites and the representatives for the safety committee. So we'll be working collaboratively on that. And I think that's it for me. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Do we have any, moving on to board member comments, Mr. Breyer?
Not much, but I just wanted to shout out and say that good job to everyone in our district for getting through the power outages. As hard as it was, we still managed to pull through.
Board member Cruz?
Well, first and foremost, Happy New Year. There are several things that when I come to the district, I look forward to. And one of those is this wall behind us. And shout out to Cal Mesa Elementary School this time around to give us a point of view on these wonderful artwork and a nice little ledger. So if you haven't seen this ledger, to tell us kindergarten through 5th grade and others to show who drew these pictures, and I am impressed. I am definitely impressed with all of those. So thank you, Cal Mesa Unified School District. I also want Cal Mesa Elementary. I'm throwing in the whole school district. So thank you. And I appreciate the subject matter expert, Mr. Kirkland and Mr. Tarantino. I appreciate you bringing that language down for me. I'm not a IT person, nor do I choose to be one. And I appreciate all of the explanation of that in your subject matter in those fields. So thank you for giving us a great grasp of what you are doing. David, I don't know if he's still here talking about CECA. I really appreciate that. I'm curious to know what the pumpkin junction is when he said that. So if the CECA, if anybody's from CECA, let me know afterwards, this meeting, because I'm curious to know about that. And another thing, Calamasa Elementary, you guys are doing a fantastic job in regards to, having students take pride in their campus. They are having an initiative to really keep their campus clean from litter and really showing them to take pride of where they go to school. So I really do appreciate that. I was a Girl Scout leader, and I'm gonna mess up the motto, but we always said where we go, we keep it clean for the next people. And I know that's not the motto, but it's the same gesture of, you know, taking pride of where you are. So thank you, Calamasa Elementary School, for that. So I hope 2025 brings great things to this school district, and I'm glad to be a part of that. One last thing, Kelly, thank you. This last couple of weeks, she really keeps her phone on. And she really keeps us informed. And I think that's very important to help us make those tough decisions that we need to make. So I appreciate you, Kelly, for doing a tremendous job. And she really shows it in her heart, in her spirit, in her dedication. And I do appreciate it. So thank you.
Board Member Bannister.
Yeah, you know, all the things. But I would also, so CECA, you know, it's just always so great to hear from you because you're always improving your program. It's always expanding. You guys just really put yourselves out there, and over the years, the program is wonderful. So that's really wonderful to hear. And then you mentioned about being resilient in this last week and how important that was. But the other thing you did is you modeled resilience for your students, because they were all going through all the things and not understanding. And, you know, heaven forbid, some of them are in houses where the news was on and they were scared, and you took care of them. And I really want to thank you for that. That was, teachers always do above and beyond every single day, every single hour. But this week was especially, so thank you very much.
Clerk Miller.
Okay, I have a few things, sorry. CECA, Daniel, thank you for speaking for everyone. The couple things that I remember, we have learned a lot about CECA at their meeting and everything. Their band comes. This year was amazing at Christmas. That was a song I never heard, and it was great. It was great. But a couple of things that I do remember that stand out to me, where that they have a program where the older kids buddy up with the younger students. I just love that. I think that's important. Young kids think that the older ones are so cool, and so they learn maybe how to act and behave and behave at school and everything. So I just love that. Of course, I'm always thinking from the parents' point of view. And I love their camp out that they have at the beginning of the year, always with the families. I think that's a fantastic idea. And their band and the cancer walk. So anyways, and also in the prior meeting in the CECA, Mayor Martinez mentioned that they're recertifying, and as I said that at that meeting, and I was here, thank you, because it's a lot of work, but I'm not worried because you guys will do great and be recertified. Okay, and then Josh, great presentation. I appreciate that. That you took the time to go out to the other schools. YHS is great, but the other schools are too. So I appreciate that, and I hope the next board, student school board members do that too. In fact, I think that we need to do that. Because it is we're a whole team, you know, so I love it. So thank you. Very good. And then also, Adam and Chad, I wanted to do a shout out to you guys because I heard you were running all over town looking for stuff this weekend. Thank you for doing that. And then she didn't have to. She does a lot, and I appreciate that. And then also, Chad, I heard that you were babysitting the server until it went on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the babysitting. You were there ready, right? So I appreciate that, because I know that's a whole big thing, being at a dental office. When that server goes down, that's bad. So anyways, thank you for that. And one more thing real quick, I just last board meeting, the Ucata High School gave us this. It was this beautiful what would you call it, garland. And I just wanted, it just talked about this, I just loved it. And it talked about different things, aspects of the school, students did it, signed it, teachers, staff, and even parents. And there was a couple things I thought, well, I can't read them all, but I wanted to just read to you a couple things that I just thought were really cool. They gave a shout out to Grounds and Grass, that the Grounds and Grass at Ucata High School is looking amazing to maintenance. They do an amazing job. That Coach Huggins started at girls flag football, which I think is really cool. That a shout out to teachers who give up their lunch to hang out with kids in the clubs. That's a huge thing. I think clubs are so cool, and kids have something different to do. And then also, this I thought was really cool. Trent Lacey, Engineering Academy student, spoke to the Director of Cybersecurity for the White House. I thought that was really cool. And then there was one more thing I'll do and then I'll stop. One of the things the library did at the high school is they did a survey. It was a volunteer survey, and 940 students filled it out, which I'm impressed. And I just thought this was so cool. 60.6% of them prefer a physical book. Now, who would have thought? With all this tech and everything, they actually like to hold the book. My youngest, who's now 26, says only books with pictures are good. So anyways, I thought that was cool. And then also how important the library is. 46.5% like that the library is open at lunchtime. And then this is really important, I think. 34.4% don't have printers at home. So they use the library lab. And I think that's huge. So go libraries. So I think that's all. And then again, real quick, the National Counseling Week. Thank you to all the counselors for all that you do for our kids. And I think that's it. Okay.
I just want you to know she took that thing home and read the whole.
I did.
She read them all.
Yeah.
It would be pretty amazing if we got to see that from more schools.
I think it was really cool.
That's a huge highlight.
Yes.
First off, that was an excellent presentation. You have set the bar for yourself, not only for the people that are going to follow you. I absolutely love that you highlighted other schools, because thank you, because we don't get to see that, right? Because, and you do recognize that you represent everyone, not just one high school. So thank you so much for that. As far as CECA goes, thank you so much for being here tonight. One of the things I love about CECA is I did the overnight. She stole my overnight thing, but they have the Friday families. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Every Friday they have the older kids and the younger kids. She kind of highlighted a little bit, but they meet every week. And it's a mentoring system, and their families all the way through. And they do things in a community setting and a school-wide setting, community setting, and then they reach out globally to make a difference in various situations. So it's a pretty amazing program. One of my favorites. And when you walk into CECA and you start talking to one of their students, they're not afraid. They walk up, they'll ask you all kinds of stuff. They'll tell you all about themselves. They'll tell you about the person next to them, and they'll tell you about their teacher. And they're pretty proud to be there. So great job, CECA. You got a wonderful thing going there, and you're not going to have any problems with that recertification. I'd like to give a huge shout out to Dennis Klein and your team. You guys did amazing. You and Adam and Shad, you were all in. Your boots on the ground. Anything that needed to get done, you got done. I understand you guys are here all weekend and all night sometimes. And what you did to help keep our schools open and safe for everyone that was there, that's amazing. So thank you very much. That's who we are, right? That's who kept us. So
Thanks, Dennis.
thank you so very much for that. I think that's it. Everybody else pretty much said it. I was scratching a lot of stuff off as they had. So that's all I have to say, right? We're good.
Okay.
And the meeting is adjourned.
Good. Everybody,